Tuesday's Fantastic Five. You got introduced to, I guess technically you got introduced to all of these questions last week. But when it comes to just the Fantastic Five, you did see 3 of these types of questions last week. I did take 2 of them out. Just looking at the numbers from my homeroom, the 2 that I took out were really good. I know they were the same across the hallway. And I wanted to put just a little bit more emphasis on fractions. So the 2 that I took out, one of them wasn't even a fractions question. So I did insert a couple that maybe we struggled with in class last week, so that gives us a little bit extra practice with that. Last week, since you only saw it 3 times, I didn't have super high expectations for the scores, especially with new stuff coming at you. And even though it's early in the week, this is a week where I would think we should absolutely be getting 3s, 4s, and 5s by today, by Tuesday, because it's not a typical Tuesday. You have seen some of these before. And if you're at home, or if you've been at home, I think you should be there too, even though I understand this isn't the same type of instruction. But guys, if you've been watching the videos, you know exactly what to do. And you know you can take notes, and you can even use the notes. So I got pretty high expectations for the quiz on Friday, because really you're going to have had exposure to these questions 8 different times or 7 different times. And if you've put forth that effort to take some notes and watch these videos, you're going to be in pretty good shape. So this definitely won't be as long as what they have normally been, just because we've seen some of these already. I'm actually going to see if I can show this a different way. I think it may be a little bit easier on my smart board. Let's try this. If I can find it. I'm not editing this out. Here we go. All right, let me make sure these are the same questions. 43 11ths, 9 4/5. Oh yeah, baby, we're cooking. Okay, let's do this way. Let me make sure I'm sharing my smart board. Smart board, full screen. Let's go. Okay, starting with number 1, this is one of those questions that we have seen already, and I'm just going to kind of move stuff around as we go. It says to convert, which we know is a synonym for change, convert 43 11ths to a mixed number. At this point, you should know when you're looking at 43 11ths, that's an improper fraction. Your numerator is bigger than your denominator. That's not normally what we want to see. And if you know that that fraction bar means divided by, you can go ahead and get your mixed number. You're essentially looking at 43 divided by 11. Now look, you can really look at it 2 different ways. You could say, okay, let me set this up as a long division problem and do 43 divided by 11, which is fine. Or you can know 11 times something is going to get me close. So if you know your facts, go through your sequence. 11 times 1, 11 times 2, 11 times 3. 11 goes into 43 3 whole times, because if I did 11 times 4, that takes me to 44, and that goes over the number. So I got to go back down. It goes in 3 whole times. So 3 becomes my whole number. And I can show you both ways at the same time. 11 goes into 43 3 times. Because when I did that 11 times 3, it gave me 33. And we know in our long division process, the next thing we would do is subtract. If I did 43 minus 33, that would leave me with 10. Since there's nothing to bring down, that's going to be my remainder. Now, we've talked about it. Whatever that remainder is, whatever that gap is, that's going to become my numerator for my fraction, which will go here. That would be 10, and the denominator is not going to change. That would give me 3 and 10 11ths. Now, if you remember, I could then say, hey, let me make sure I'm right. Let me take that mixed number and change it back to an improper fraction, which this is the same way we're going to solve number 2 in just a second. I can go 11 times 3 at the bottom and get 33, add that 10 at the top and get 43, and that denominator doesn't change. If this is matching this, then I know I'm correct. Some people like to do that from the start, which I think is a little bit more work. But if you're not super comfortable with your multiplication or your division, you could just say, hey, let me take A, 3 and 1/11. Let me change that to an improper and see if I get 43 11ths. Let me try that with B. Let me try that with C. I don't like to do it that way, and I'd rather you not do it that way. But if we're being honest, if you can put forth that extra little bit of effort, you can get the question right doing that, which ultimately is all that matters. So if that's what we're doing and we're getting the right answer, we'll take that all day. So I'll kind of show you the same thing here for number 2, because now I've been given a mixed number. It says convert 9 4/5 to an improper fraction. So I'll take my 9 4/5. When I want to change that to an improper, guys, it's just 2 steps. We know that. I'm going to multiply at the bottom. Whatever product I get there, I'll add it with my numerator, and that becomes my new numerator. So if I go 5 times 9, if you know your facts, it gives you 45. 45 plus 4 more would give me 49, and that denominator is not going to change. Hey, good morning. So that's going to give me 49/5, which I see is one of my answer choices. So now I can just do again the exact same thing I did to solve number 1. I can take that 49/5 and I can change it back to a mixed number, because fraction bar means divided by. So I'll show you kind of the long division way again. How many whole times can 5 go into 49? It goes in 9 whole times, which becomes my whole number. When I follow the long division steps, 5 times 9 gives me 45. Do that subtraction, it gives me remainder 4. Again, that remainder becomes my numerator, and my denominator doesn't change. When this mixed number up here matches what I got when I check it, that way I know I'm right. So I said it in last week's videos, but I was also saying it in class. If we get number 1 right, we should get number 2 right. If you miss number 1, you should miss number 2. Those numbers should match. And in my homeroom, the numbers were pretty close. They were 12 and 11. So it should either be 12 and 12 or 11 and 11. This week, though, the whole class should be getting that one just because of how many times we've seen it. So 1 and 2, those are 2 questions that I'd probably like to see be pretty high this week. All right, looking at number 3, this is one of the new questions. And I got to see if I can move it so it can be at the top. So it says, what fraction of this pizza is left? This is one of those questions where if you come to the Zoom, or if you came to the Zoom, you will see me have solved it this way. This is one of those questions where I'd like to kind of ignore the answer choices first and just focus on the actual question. So what fraction of that pizza is left? So if I'm looking at the picture, let me get my marker here. My denominator is obviously going to come from how many total slices there were, and I can just count that with my fingers. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There were 6 total slices. And some people get confused with this part, and it's just a reading mistake. What fraction is left? That's not the part that got eaten. That's the part you can still see, because if your mom said, hey, how much pizza is left? You're going to walk in the kitchen, you're going to count the slices you can see. That just makes sense. So what fraction of the pizza is left? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces left. Looking at your answer choices, you see 5/6 right there. That answer would be C. Now I need to check something real quick, because I didn't think I made that one that easy, but I might have. And if I did, I'll tell you what it's going to look like in a couple of days. Yeah, I did make it that easy. So look, I guess this is a good warning. Let me share my screen again before I mess that up. And we saw this last week in class, and there's a reason why this is going to happen. You're going to get to a point on this question at some point this week where you're going to say, hey, that answer is 5/6, but it's not going to be an answer choice. That's where people panic. That's where they either think, oh, I made a mistake, or they just choose one that looks close. Like they might choose 1/6 because it just has a 6 in it, or they might choose 1/5 because there's a 5 in it. Remember what we talked about last week? If you know for a fact this is your answer and you don't see it, that means one of those answer choices is going to be equivalent. So it might look completely different, but you can compare your answer to the answer choices, and one of them will represent the same amount. So if tomorrow you see that, don't panic, find the answer that's equivalent, because that will happen. I'm a little disappointed at myself for making that one that easy. But it is Tuesday, so we'll ease our way into that one. So number 3, you would have had C, 5/6. The one I really wouldn't want you to pick there would probably be 1/6, because that would just be a reading mistake. All right, number 4, I did say that once you know the steps on this one, it gets a lot easier. But I'm going to make these numbers a little bit bigger where you're going to really have to know your facts. Or even if you miss some of the factors, you're going to really have to check these. And it doesn't take you long to check. Again, it's just a matter of, are you willing to take the time to do it? So which fraction below shows 28/30ths in simplest form? If you remember, there's 3 steps here. First thing I want to do, I want to list all my factors for my numerator and my denominator. So let's knock that out first. Again, I'm going to list the factor pairs, then I'll just put them in order. So I know I can do 1 times 28. And I try to go in order in my brain. Guys, 28 is an even number. So I know I can do 2 times something. And even if you don't know it off the top of your head, skip count by 2s because I know you've been doing that for a while. I could go 2 times 14. If I tried to do 3 times something, it wouldn't work. If I tried 4, I could do 4 times 7. And again, I only need to try the numbers in between 4 and 7 now. 5 wouldn't work, 6 wouldn't work. I've got all my factors. So then I'm going to list them in order right here. A little tight, but that's all right. Then I'm going to do the same exact thing for 30. I'll start with 1 times 30. I know I can do 2 because 30 is an even number. It would be 2 times 15. I would try 3, which would work. I could do 3 times 10. So I only need to try the numbers in between 3 and 10. 4 would not work. 5 would work. It ends in 0. That would be 5 times 6. And guys, there's no numbers in between 5 and 6, so I know I'm done. I found all my factors. Once again, I'm going to list all my factors in order. That is step number 1. And yeah, that might seem like a lot of work, but if you know your facts, guys, it's not. Once I've got all my factors, step number 2, I got to find my GCF, my greatest common factor, the biggest number they both have in common. Just by looking at my factors, I see they have 1 in common. I see they have 2 in common. And y'all, that's the only one that I see. 2 is the greatest common factor in this case. So I would circle my GCF. Step number 3, I have to take my numerator and my denominator and divide them by my GCF, which is 2, which you should know because you just figured out the multiplication. So it's really just the opposite using the division. My simplified fraction would be 14/15. And the way that I know I'm 100% correct, because I would take my answer and I would try to simplify it. I would list all my factors for 1. I could do 1 times 14. I could do 2 times 7. I'd list all my factors for 15. I could do 1 times 15. I can do 3 times 5. Anytime the GCF is 1, that either means it's already in simplest form or just can't be simplified. Really, they're the same thing. That way I'm confident in my answer. That would be A, 14/15. Some people were saying last week, well, can't I always just split the numbers in half and be done? Sometimes, guys, but not every number is divisible by 2. But even if you split it in half, it can be split in half again. That's why I like listing all those factors, double check, and making sure you got it right. So that one was strong last week. Just looking at the numbers on the board, really good last week. As those numbers get a little bit bigger, we're going to see how well we know our facts and how much we're actually checking the work. All right, number 5 is new-ish. Again, we saw it in class. We saw a type of this question in class. The work is not hard, y'all. It's just a matter of taking the time to do it. It says Laura walked 4/5 of a mile, Marseille walked 2/3 of a mile, and Jamie walked 1/2 of a mile. Who walked the least amount? So guys, what I'm doing is I'm comparing the amounts that they walked or they traveled. If I've compared fractions, I know that I need to cross multiply. Some of you guys call it the butterfly method. Where you start here doesn't really matter. You can pick 2 random people. I'll just start with Laura and Marseille because I see their names first. So I like to put an L because that's Laura, an M for Marseille, put their totals right underneath, and compare them. Again, I'm looking for who traveled the least amount. So if I compare these 2 and I went bottoms up, 5 times 2 is 10, 3 times 4 is 12. Right now, I can look at those 2 numbers that I got at the top and see who traveled the least. Laura's got 12, Marseille's got 10. I know 10 is less than 12. So I know that Marseille traveled less than Laura, which means Laura's eliminated. That doesn't mean Marseille's the answer. That just means I got rid of Laura. So now I need to toss Jamie into this, and I need to compare Marseille to Jamie. Here's Marseille. Here's Jamie. Again, Marseille walked 2/3 of a mile. Jamie walked 1/2 of a mile. We're going to compare them again. We're going to cross multiply. Now, going back to what I just did, I eliminated Laura. I could really eliminate D as well because we just proved that they did not walk an equal amount. The rest of the week, I think you're only going to have 3 answer choices. So going bottoms up between Marseille and Jamie, 3 times 1 is 3, 2 times 2 is 4. Again, we're trying to figure out who walked the least amount. If Marseille's fraction is represented with the number 4 and Jamie's is represented with the number 3, right there, I've got my answer. Jamie traveled the least. You've got to read this week because there may be a question that's asking the most tomorrow or Thursday. That's going to change, but how you solve it's no different. You've got to compare those fractions using cross multiplication. Don't just say, ooh, Laura's got a 4 in hers and Jamie has a 1 in her fraction. That means Jamie walked the least. If you do that, you're going to miss the question, I promise you. So you've got to really take the time to just solve those questions the right way, and you'll get it right, as long as you read. So that's Tuesday's Fantastic Five. Again, I'm thinking the numbers ought to be pretty good today and going forward, they should be really good. This should be one of those weeks where on Friday, it should be one of our best Fantastic Fives of the year. Even though some of this stuff is challenging, we've had a lot of time to practice it. So hopefully you watch this all the way through. Hopefully you found something that's going to help you tomorrow or sometime down the road during this week. If you're taking notes, make sure you're using them on tomorrow's Fantastic Five. Either way, if that number's going up, we are accomplishing what we want to accomplish. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.